Hey everybody, welcome back to another edition of Game Time with John Eads. It's been quite a summer so far. LSU baseball brings back another national championship, the 8th in program history. Not a bad way to kind of end the month of June and continue what's been a great 2025. We got a member of that great coaching staff in with us today, Josh Jordan. He's the third base coach. He coaches the catchers. He's the recruiting coordinator for Jay Johnson and company. It was a very good team in 25. Two-time national champion here with the purple and gold. Not a bad way to begin the summer, huh, Coach?
John, no, I appreciate that. That's the first person that's introduced me as two-time national champion, so felt pretty good. I'll be honest with you, kind of cool. So excited to just, again, have a chance to do it all over again. Honestly, the work never stops, and already focusing on, spring of 2026.
Got to update your resume now. Now
yeah, I'll leave that to somebody else. I don't do a lot of that. I focus on what's going on now. One day I'll look back and maybe think about it, but right now it's more about what's next, and getting us ready for 2026. That's just how I think.
That's how it is, and that's why this program has been so good. I think will continue to be so good because y'all don't dwell on the successes. Maybe for a couple hours, you have that victory cigar. You guys celebrate in the locker room afterwards, but then the next day, how college athletics is these days, it's all right, on to the next one.
Yeah, no, it's funny. I was, messaging and communicating with recruits like during the celebration, just because they were reaching out to me, and I feel like the obligation to respond because that's how you that's how you recruit. You make people feel part of something and understand that what's going on now can be what they want to be in the future and what they're going to do in the future. And so trying to help them have that imagery and understand this is a very attainable goal at LSU.
It's kind of nice, though. You don't have to actively recruit in some scenarios, like playing in the national championship at the College World Series in general on national TV for everybody to see. I mean, the program kind of recruits itself in those situations.
It does. Obviously, it's always tough in the SEC. The best players want to play in this league, but you're right. Playing in the College World Series, it's the biggest stage and the brightest lights, which is something LSU's been a part of for a long time. And that's a message we always share with recruits when we're talking with them. Like, if you want exposure, if you want the opportunity to prepare yourself for professional baseball, which means playing in high-pressure situations in front of a lot of people, there's no better place in the country than LSU. And so everything's a training for something. Like Coach Johnson, you've heard him say that before, and I think no different than playing in Omaha. It prepares you for going on to the big leagues and potentially playing in the Big League World Series.
Yeah, you've even said it yourself. LSU is Major League Baseball.
I say LSU that all the time. For me, it is the big leagues. Yeah. It is the big leagues and how our players are expected to win, how the environment affects maybe how they play and how they train. And I think all that prepares them for professional baseball. I think if you talk to any alumni, whether it be Kevin Gosman, Aaron Nola, Paul Skeens, Alex Bregman, list goes on. You ask all those guys, no question, playing in this environment helped them prepare for professional baseball.
Well, there is no major league team in Louisiana either, except LSU, so you guys can kind of take that mantle. You get the Astros a couple hours away, the Braves a couple hours the other way. So for everybody in between, it's LSU.
Well, we're the Yankees of college baseball.
Exactly.
And that's my team.
I love it. So that was your second time going to Omaha, or have you been
second
there?
time going to Omaha?
Gotcha.
My first time was in 2023, and I told myself as a young coach and coaching that I was never going to go until I went with the team. That being said, I did throw in the college home run derby in 2019 when I was an assistant at Duke. One of our players was in the college home run derby, Michael Rothenberg. And I had been to the stadium and been to the field, but I'd never actually been to the College World Series and wasn't going to go until I actually went with the team.
That's cool. So they used to do a home run derby?
They used to do a college home run derby.
Wow.
I think it ended when COVID happened, and I don't think they've ever started it back up. It was kind of a fun event. Like I said, Michael Rothenberg was the young man from Duke that I was throwing to there, but had two other SEC guys that were in the home run derby during that time. And so it was kind of a fun event. It was really cool, but it was neat to get a chance to throw. I've never thrown in a home run derby before, so that was kind of a cool experience for me.
Is that the only thing they did? Did they do any other kind of
that
skills?
I think that was it. They didn't do any other skills session or anything like that.
Gotcha.
But they haven't started it back, so I don't know.
Would you like to see them bring that back? I mean,
it's a good question. It was cool. I mean, the place was packed. I mean, and that, I think some of that was because they had fireworks too. Fireworks always brings out people. But yeah, I thought it was cool. I can't tell in terms of the logistics of it and things like that. I can't speak to how that would work. But yeah, it might be fun for the fans. Maybe
cut back on some costs, because I know Vahiva Alloy, he had to fly back, right, for the Golden Spikes Award, and you'd have to fly all these players in if their team's not at the College World Series. Maybe that has something to do with it.
Something to do with it.
That's cool. I'm sure the experience is a lot better when you're not just there for like an exhibition, but you're there.
No, there's nothing beats. I tell everyone, I had a friend who kind of works in your field that she was there, and she messaged me saying that she was going and covering a team, and I said, well, whatever you think Omaha is, you multiply that by 10, and that's really what it is. And she messaged me when she was headed home saying, yeah, it was everything you said. So pretty cool. It's a fun experience. And LSU fans know all about it. Nobody goes to Omaha more than LSU fans.
I was going to say, I mean, at the team send-offs, they're packed. Even like in that second game against Coastal Carolina, when Coach Schnall got tossed, you look around, it's like all LSU fans up and chanting. It felt like a home game.
Yeah, it always is. It's Alex Box North. There's no question about it.
It's cliche, but it's true. I mean, you just look around and you hear everybody, and they do it right. Everybody looks forward to that portion of the year. You guys are obsessed with getting there. I'm sure like everything you do all season long is about getting to
everything
Omaha.
Is getting to Omaha. No question about it. I know no one wakes up with that on their mind more than Coach Johnson. I mean, everything he did, I told a recruit yesterday we had visiting that literally every single moment of the day, Coach Johnson is thinking about LSU baseball and what it takes for this program to be back in Omaha. Yeah. And that never stops for our staff. Again, we joked about July 4th, a holiday. Well, not much of a holiday. We're working, so we're trying to get us back there in 26.
Really hard to celebrate any holidays in this field, right? I mean, maybe Christmas, because that's kind of an in-between period.
Yeah, December's the month that we kind of take and say, okay, it's a good time for us to reset, knowing that the thing that made 2025 so special, and I think Coach Johnson alluded to this, was the work that the guys needed to do during that month of December reflected itself in May and June. And that's really when championships are won. That's the old thing, old saying is when the lights are off and no one's watching, that's really when you win your championships. And our guys came back from the winter break, really prepared. It was evident they had done their work. And I think our staff even knew in January there was the makings of us having a really good season.
I heard a lot about that. Like Daniel Dickinson's mom is filming him like swinging in the backyards in Washington. Connor Benj came back a completely different player. Even on that day when it snowed, you had Cade, Eddie, Luis, all the catchers, Blaze out in the snow doing stuff. Drills, like these guys just got after it.
Yeah, and some of that is you have to have a great plan. I mean, you have to have the focus on what you need to do individually to improve your game. But along those same lines, it's always a mindset. Our catchers, they joke about it. They hear me say it a lot, but it's true. They sent me that picture that they posted. They text me that photo, and I was at home, and they text me that picture, and they said it's will over skill. And I say that a lot because that's really true. You can will things to happen, and no one's a better reflection of that than Danny Dickinson playing in the postseason with a broken hand. I told him, I said, Danny, you've willed things to happen your entire life. And so winning a national championship is no different. Dig in there and give us everything you got, and he did that, and I'm really excited for him, and that's why he came to LSU, and I'm really excited that he had a chance to experience that.
I saw that. I was like amazed. I was like, he had a broken hand that whole time, because he's still out there, pivoting, throwing off the off platform, getting hits. Like it just looked like regular old Danny Dickinson. You had no idea he had a broken hand.
Did a really good job of keeping that quiet.
Yeah. So. We talked to him a lot. I interviewed him like 5 or 6 times in Omaha, in between and whatever. And not once was I like, something's off with him, Crazy.
Yeah. No, he did a good job. He's just super tough kid.
Yeah.
Super tough kid and wanted something so badly that he made it happen.
Yeah. I mean, this is kind of it, right? I mean, it's his junior year. You're in Omaha. You're just a couple wins away from a national championship. You got to lay it all out on the line.
No question. Yeah. There's no tomorrow. There's no reason to sit and to go give us what you got. And he had got us to that point, there's no reason why that young man couldn't get us through the finish line.
Yeah, super tough kid. After that national championship, we got a video of you talking to Skip for a few moments. I also have one from after the regionals. I'm sure you talked to him after the Supers. You guys are all really close with him, it seems like. What was he saying to you on the field after the game?
Well, first of all, am really close to. I would echo what Coach Johnson says. Probably the most rewarding thing about this job. There's a lot of great things. Probably the most rewarding thing about this job is having the opportunity to interact with the legend, Skip Bertman. As a young player, seeing his teams and all those things, it's kind of surreal to get a chance to interact with him. And the way he welcomed me personally, I remember talking with him the very first day on the job. Coach Johnson told me there's really kind of two things in this program two rules for me as a coach was we don't break any rules, and number two is we do whatever Coach Bertman says. And Coach Bertman called me that first day, and it was kind of surreal getting a chance to talk with him the first day on the job in Atlanta when I was recruiting. And but being a part of, we want him to be part of this. It's called the Powerhouse, and I tweet a lot. He's the architect. He's the guy that built this. And he put us in a position to be successful. And part of success is having gratitude, and we're grateful for Coach Bertman being part of this with us. And I was really excited because of just what he experienced this season with, the passing of Miss Sandy, and getting a chance for him to go back to Omaha was really rewarding for me. And so getting a chance to talk with him on the field afterwards, we said some things and was kind of talking, and then I asked him, I was like, does this ever get old, Coach? And he said, no, it doesn't. And I said, well, I wouldn't think it would. And we just kind of shared a cool moment there. And as you know, our players respect him so much. You can see that when he came over after the Super Regional and talked to the team. He was kind of standing off to the side, and I felt like he needed to be part of that, honestly. And so bringing him over and having him a chance to experience that, they're just, even for Coach Bertman, there's only so many times as a coach you get a chance to celebrate a championship. And I feel like it was important for him to be part of that. Because, again, he's the guy that built this, and he's the guy we owe a lot to.
Now y'all are continuing it. Jake Brown said at one point this season that he told the guys they were playing with some spunk this year, whatever that means.
Yeah, Jake doesn't know what that means.
Yeah, I don't think he does either. I've heard that word a couple of times, but I had to look up.
I think it's maybe, moxie.
Yeah, exactly. So, it's a older word, He probably told his teams many times that word throughout the years. But they certainly did play with some spunk, and it was a special team. Of course, culminating in a national championship. I think what struck me so much this year was how close they all seemed to be, and you guys almost had a wealth of riches. So many guys that could start at so many different places, and some maybe didn't have the role that they could have at other spots, but it was not a selfish group.
No, it wasn't, and part of being a successful player is you have the 5 physical tools, ability to hit, power, run, arm strength, all those things. The physical tools are really important to success in the SEC and as a college baseball player. But that sixth tool of character makeup, how to win awareness, to use Coach Bertman's phrase, that sixth tool is really important. And we try, we're not perfect, but we try to recruit that. It's something that we try to identify in the process. What are some things that we can lean back to and look back to that, like, okay, this is why this guy can have success in this environment. Because not everybody can do this. Just because you have physical tools does not mean you can play at LSU and have success. And so you have to have that sixth tool. And this team, a lot of guys very much had that sixth tool. Danny Dickinson, we talked a lot about him. For me, Luis Hernandez. He's just a baseball player. He sees the game different than other people, and he has a ton of gratitude, and no one wanted to win more than Luis Hernandez. And you can go around the field, even the talented guys. I mean, Derek Carrell wants to win, and he's physically gifted, has everything he needs in terms of tools and skill set, but he also has a sixth tool in terms of character, and the makeup is very important. And it goes back to how you win close games. That's really the character, and everyone likes to talk about culture, and culture is not, like everyone says, it's not what you say or what you post in a dugout or on a hallway. It's really what you do, and this team showed a ton of character and about how they went about their business and how they cared for each other, because to mention what Coach Johnson says, put the needs of the team above yourself. When you start doing that, you yourself will have a ton of success. And if you find yourself, baseball is a mental game, and if you find yourself, getting real mental, The best way to get out of your own head is to get in someone else's head and think about someone else to your left or to your right. And this team did a really good job of that.
Is that hard to kind of evaluate? Because some of these guys, like Derek, you recruit them from 7th grade, 8th grade, 9th grade on. So some of them you could probably over time figure out if they have that 6th tool or not. But the guys out of the portal, like Luis, like Danny, how are you able to kind of, in such a short period of time, identify if they have that tool or not?
Well, it's more art than science. I like to say that, I love to be able to put a formula on the board and say, here's if it's all this checks boxes, this is why it'll happen. But as you're talking with people, if you actually are a good listener, they'll tell you exactly what you're going to get sometimes in terms of a player. And so we as a coaching staff, Coach Johnson's the best at it, we as a coaching staff try to make sure we're listening to exactly what the player's telling us. Because in the age of the portal, Coach Yeski says it this way, and I think it's well said, most guys in the portal are running towards something or away from something. And so you're trying to figure out what that young man is running towards. And that's not, or away from. And that's not a negative statement. Sometimes when people hear that, it's like, oh, they're thinking something negative. Not necessarily. Luis Hernandez had success as a player. He wanted an opportunity to get to Omaha and experience success at this level. That's what he was running towards. And he wanted an opportunity to catch and prove himself as a catcher. And so he did that and did that really well. And so when you know that young man has a singular focus on that goal, and then you start knowing that his character is high, and then you see that's how you get a guy that's Luis Hernandez steps in and helps you win a championship.
Makes sense. Yeah, Luis fits that description of a guy that played very well at, I don't want to say a lower level because Indiana State
Indiana State's a really good program.
But in Danny's case, Utah Valley, LSU, a little bit different, obviously. But even like, a Michael Braswell, a Chris Stanfield, guys that played SEC ball but maybe wanted to go somewhere where they could be developed a little bit more. What do you think they wanted to come to LSU for?
Well, I think for me, I think, they knew maybe some of the development that happens here. They had heard about it, because players talk. They played together growing up and on the circuit, the travel ball circuit. And so I think both those guys said, I know they're doing some things really different over there at LSU in terms of player development. And I think maybe they were running towards that. And obviously, Stanfield swung by the office yesterday, and he just said it. He said it very simply, like, this is different. Playing here is really different. And you could hear in his voice just how much respect that he had for this place and how grateful he was to just have a chance to be part of it. And so it is different. There's playing in the SEC, and then there's playing at LSU. And playing at LSU is different than some other places. And when you come here and you have success, you're really prepared for professional baseball. And I think, Chris Stanfield's a great example of that. I think he's a young man that's prepared. He feels like he's ready for professional baseball.
Yeah, improved his numbers. He had a good couple of years over at Auburn, had a couple hits off Paul Skeens, but comes here, boosts the average, becomes a better offensive player, and stout in the outfield as well.
So. Yeah, we don't win a national championship without Chris Stanfield. Yeah. We don't, and so it takes everyone. I told our catchers that's why you saw us always do the group hug at the end of the pitchers meeting out there, because everyone plays a role. Everyone plays a part, and everyone's valued here at LSU, and it's going to take all of us to be successful. Luis Hernandez cannot catch every pitch. So without Cade Aaronbeatty, without Eddie Yemen, without those guys shouldering the load in the playoffs and doing the other things that help make our pitching staff successful, we don't win a national championship with all those guys.
Yeah, I've seen it too, even catching live ABs in practice. Someone's got to do that.
That's important. To keep a guy like John Pearson, someone on the mound can stay fresh. Mm-hmm. John can stay locked in at the plate. We need someone to catch that sim game. And the energy that Eddie Yemen brought, and the passion and the care for others, the selflessness, that's unique in today's age, and that's why this was a unique team.
Yeah, along those lines, is this kind of a thing that you feel like you guys can replicate, just the closeness of this team and the unselfishness, or is it kind of, it's just about having the right guys at the right time?
Well, you always are going to need this to win championships. You better have togetherness if you're going to win championships, and it is something that I think it's our responsibility as coaches, because you're a coach first, and you're coaching guys to go on and be successful in life away from the field. And so you better coach it. We model it as a coaching staff. And so that way they understand when they go on to professional baseball and teams are going to require them to be selfless and to be part of a championship and think of others that rather than themselves. Because that's required in professional baseball too. Make no mistake about it. The Dodgers, I think, if you talk to them, they have a lot of diversity. They won the World Series last year, and they have a dynamic lineup with a lot of versatility. Guys are asked to do different things. You don't do that if you're not thinking about the goal of the team. And so we try to coach it. We're going to continue to coach it. Coach Johnson's the best in the country at coaching it, in my opinion. He makes sure every guy has a very detailed plan on how they're going to get better, how they're going to develop, and we're invested in them. And then we ask them to invest in the program and think of the team above themselves. And we're going to continue to coach that. So, yes, we think that is something we have to sustain going forward.
And it helps when you bring in the right guys. You
100%.
mentioned your process of getting the right guys here. Luis was one of those guys, as we've outlined. I know that his college playing days are over, and he had a great year here. Just as he leaves, what has he meant to you in this 1 year that he caught for y'all?
Love the young man. It's fun to see a guy come here and you help, not because he helped us win a championship, not for me, but because he knew what he was running towards, like what he wanted to do. And to help him as a coach achieve that is really rewarding for me. I was excited. I saw the photo today again. Just if you look, there's a photo that was captured that I saw where you see two guys, they're in the background, they're coming out of the dugout, and there's Luis Hernandez in all of his gear with both hands up as he's running to the mound to dog pile, and then right behind him is a guy like Zach Cowan, same exact type of kid, high character, ton of ability, came here to win the championship, came here to be part of something special. And so to see that picture of Luis Hernandez and Zach Cowan getting ready and running out to the dog pile, that's rewarding as a coach. I don't care as much about holding the trophy as much as I care about seeing those guys achieve their goals and the passion and just the excitement in their faces. Really, really rewarding. It's really fun.
Yeah, it's the plus side of the transfer portal. You see it sometimes. Some of these guys are going to like 4 and 5 different schools and running from something maybe as you alluded to. But it's also, there's a positive side to it for guys like Zach and Luis who are talented enough, develop enough to go play at a school like LSU. Maybe they weren't there yet coming out of college and needed a little bit more time, but they get to that point, and now they have the opportunity to go and make an impact.
No, I've always been a proponent of the transfer portal. I think guys, you have only a short amount of time to play this game, and so I understand why guys feel the need to go play places, and they're not negative. I never look at things as like, oh, that's negative. That's just not how I view life and how I view things in general. Guys that come here, they're looking for an opportunity, looking for a chance to be part of something special, and we welcome that. And again, I think across college baseball, an opportunity for any young man to improve his game should never be looked upon in a negative manner. Never. I think guys should always have the opportunity to better themselves, and the playing career is very short for a player, and so they have to work hard to get it right. That's part of our responsibility as coaches, to make sure guys are always making good, sound decisions. And that's not any different in the recruiting process. When we recruit a young man, we try to talk him through and walk him through why LSU is a strong decision, and that's just part of our obligation to the program, is make sure that we're understanding or helping the athlete and his family understand what they're coming into and how LSU is different. And so that's something we try to do a very good job of in terms of making sure guys are successful.
Well said. So Luis moving on. You have Cade Aaron Beatty coming back. He's a 3-year guy, right? So he'll be back for his sophomore year. And then Eddie, what year is he in? Was this his sophomore, junior year?
Senior. He'll be a senior.
Senior, okay. But he redshirted this year, if I'm not mistaken?
Yes, correct.
So he technically has 2 more years of
Technically,
eligibility. Got it. Just what's the outlook with those two guys? I know Cade had a lot of opportunities this year in his freshman season, and obviously Eddie helped out a lot behind the scenes, was the energy guy in the dugout, but he's certainly capable of playing
Very capable. Eddie, very capable. And again, Cade Aaron Beatty, I've said it to start the season, I think you guys asked me, was he has highest ceiling of any kid I've ever coached behind the plate. The tools are big. And I love the fact that he wouldn't mind me saying this. I mean, that North Dakota State game was a rough one for him. But the cool thing was the very next morning he was in my office. This is when I knew Cade was going to be successful. He was in the office the next morning ready to talk about it, ready to lean into that moment and say, you know, what do I got to do to get better? And we went to work. I still have the chest protector. I told him, you know, we outlined some things he had to work on. And I have the chest protector in my office where, like, we went right to work on blocking and some other things that he needed to improve on. And, I mean, he literally wore a hole in his chest protector with the number of baseballs that he blocked. And there's no secret to some of that. Some of that is just you have to dive in and say, you know what, we're going to put in some sweat equity and go to work. And that's what he did, and I was really proud of him. And make no mistake about it, down the stretch, Cade Beatty was vital to us winning a national championship and some of the things he did behind the plate for us. And when he went in the game and caught, our pitchers were better because of him, and specifically Anthony Ianson. People forget, I think he called Anthony 5 straight Saturdays in the SEC, in which Anthony got a win. And so, you know, that's really important when you're talking about taking the load off a guy like Luis Hernandez. And the same thing goes for Eddie. You know, Eddie, in terms of what he did to make our pitchers better, our pitching staff started throwing better out of the pen when he started going to the pen, and he was the guy that they saw before they stepped in the game mound. That's really something that goes unnoticed, but Eddie made us better in that regard, and I was excited that Eddie had a chance to experience a championship as a player. Of course, again, that's why he came here.
I think Eddie did do a lot of things that people don't see just because he's not out there playing.
100%.
You know,
100%.
You see him in the dugout. He's you know, hyping up the guys while they're batting, and he and Cade are kind of doing that.
Well, I told them back in the fall, knowing what it was going to take, knowing that we had 4 guys that had never caught a single pitch in the SEC, I knew, and I told them, and I said, it's not going to change. We're going to need all of you guys to win a national championship, and because no one had ever done it. And there's strength in numbers. And if all those guys buy in, if all those guys have a collective goal of winning a championship, they're all going to improve individually.
Mm-hmm. Seems like they all bought in. And you mentioned Cade had that rough game, but he had some really good moments before and after that.
Before and after that.
Really good catches behind the plate, and then, of course, blocking pitches too.
People forget the catching position, coming in as a freshman and being asked to do that, that's very difficult. It's probably the hardest thing to do as a college baseball player, to step in as a catcher and catch some of the stuff, just the pitches and the things that you see as a catcher. You don't experience that a lot on an everyday basis in high school. Yeah, Cade caught in some showcase events but every single day catching that, there's a lot that goes into it, and especially in Alex Box Stadium, and it's very tough to do.
On the one hand, you got 101-mile-an-hour Chase Shores fastball, and then you got a Zach Cowan, 90-mile-an-hour changeup or 80-mile-an-hour changeup.
80-mile-an-hour changeup.
Yeah,
and then
it's a little different.
the ball this spring that was tough was you have several guys that threw the splitty. And,
yeah, Jaden Newt, right?
Newt and Ianson, and they throw that pitch, and sometimes you don't. It's knuckling more than has a kind of a consistent movement pattern. And as a catcher, that's tough. You're like, where's it going to go? And so. Yeah, it's sometimes it's funny when folks are like, just catch the baseball, okay. So it's a little more to it than that.
Yeah, it's a little more difficult than it appears on TV. You know, I do want to mention one more thing before we move on a little bit. Luis, it seemed like there were so many times this year where he got hit with a ricochet, a foul ball, and he would walk around for a few moments. Isaac Trujillo would come out and talk to him, and he'd stay in the game. Just the toughness of Luis, it's got to be eye-opening.
Very tough. Very tough. And, I told Poppy, something that he had to do the recovery stuff better. I challenged him. I brought him into the office, and I wrote on the dry erase board there in my office the number of outs we still had to get. This was after the second SEC series, how many outs we had to get through the SEC alone, just to make it to the finish line in terms of number of outs, knowing there's no clock. And showed him the recovery piece is really important. And that was something that he did that improved his game down the stretch. And that, again, that's where Cade came in so valuable. He took the load off a little bit, which also plays a role in the recovery. And so, he was a tough kid. Had to really focus on kind of doing that, honestly, because he'd never had those things previously. The resources we have here at LSU are different than other places, and he wasn't used and accustomed to that being part of his preparation and recovery, and had to kind of coach him to say, hey, these are things that can help make you better. And when he started maximizing those, he started maximizing his ability as a player. And so that's something, again, as a coach, you have to make sure all your guys are developing holistically. I challenge our catchers in terms of the sleep, hygiene, nutrition, all those things. They know I stay on them about that as much as I do about how they receive a pitch or throw a baseball.
Yeah, you might forget about that. It doesn't seem important. What seems
very
important is just catching the ball and hitting the ball. But, there's things that will allow you to do that better that don't have anything to do with baseball.
Yes.
So you literally just wrote the number of outs? Like you didn't put...
Yeah, with basically number of outs we had to record to get to the end of the SEC and say,
wow,
do you understand how many outs that is? And at that time, I think it was 736. And so I'm like, do you understand that's a lot of baseball that we have to get you through?
Yeah.
And so what you try to do is as a coach, and Coach Johnson does this better than anybody, you try to take the complex and make it where it's digestible and simple.
Yeah.
The sophistication or complexity is the enemy of execution. So I try to take something that's really complex and seems like very far off and bring it to right here in this moment and make it resonate to that student athlete right then.
Yeah.
And writing that number on the board was something I felt like he would understand, and I think it did. I think it resonated with him. And then I brought our other catchers in and said, hey, you see this number? This is how far we have to go. So we're going to need you to be your best version of yourself every single day.
It's eye-opening. It's like a marathon,
It is.
26.2.
It is. And so you have to know how to kind of take that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you don't think about that, You're just like, these guys are machines, they're robots, show up and catch, but not when you're squatting down and in that heat, especially for 3 hours.
Exactly.
Yeah, no, far from it. So kind of sticking with the future, you got some good news recently. Omar, is it Cerna? Is that how you pronounce it?
Yeah.
He is a guy that could have gone pro, but decided he's going to play at LSU, and he's a 3-year guy as well.
Yep. So, yeah, excited. That was for us as a coaching staff some really good news. You win a national championship, and you're focused on next year, 2026, which I told you started immediately. And then the minute Omar Cerna made the call, we actually jumped on a Zoom with Omar and his family. And I mentioned this before we went on here that I went out there twice this spring. I told him that if he's in the state championship, I will be there. And so on a Monday morning off day, he was playing in a 10 a.m. game. I jumped on a flight to Dallas-Fort Worth, and I went to the state championship, honored my word, and went to a state championship game. And then, last week he said, hey, Coach, I want to jump on a Zoom with Coach Johnson and yourself, and we got some great news. Love the family, high character young man, has a big why. I think our fans will learn his why and what kind of motivates him a little bit. And, again, really, really talented player. Really, really talented player. And he's going to fit in great here at LSU because of, how he goes about his business, but also just he has a ton of ability. I'm excited about the opportunity, him and Cade behind the plate. For me, you couldn't work with two better guys in the country, in my opinion, than those two guys. If you draw it up as a catching coach, whoever you want to work with, you have a chance to catch with Cade Aaron-Beatty, or work with Cade Aaron-Beatty, Omar Cerna, and Eddie Yemen. That's really a great starting point for 2026, and that was great news for our coaching staff.
You guys are stacked up pretty good now. It's going to be
ton of power.
Yeah.
I know we talk about his catching here, but young man, at a major event last summer at the area code games out in Long Beach, he was by far, in my opinion, the best hitter there. And so not only is he a great receiver and catches at a high level, he's also a really good bat with a ton of power.
Is that hard to find? Because you got a couple guys now that are like that, and it just kind of adds a different dimension to the offense.
It does, and those are hard to find, and it's the blessing you have at LSU is you can identify those guys, and you can also recruit those guys to a place like LSU.
Yeah, and Luis had some pop with the Sycamores, and found some of that. It's a little harder when you're catching 60 games and not DHing like he was there, right? Mm-hmm. But he still had his moments, certainly, especially in the postseason where, think about the Arkansas game. He had that hit to left field and, got a nice bounce and ended up winning that game.
Well, good things happen to good people that work hard.
Yeah.
And Luis is a prime example of that.
Yeah. What's the saying? When hard work meets opportunity, good things happen. Something like that.
That's
right?
Luis Hernandez.
Yeah. Well said. Switching gears a little bit, you've coached with Jay for, 4 years now, 4 seasons?
Yeah, 3 years here, and then obviously going into 4 year. I'm back. So
right.
I know there was the rumor of different things like that, but no, I'm here at LSU. I love being at LSU.
Well, I was going to ask about that because, some people were floating your name around as maybe a guy that goes back to Duke and takes that head coaching job. Of course, you were there for many years as an assistant, about a decade, right?
10 years. I was there at Duke
10 years
for 10
exactly.
years,
I asked you this before, but what was that kind of process like?
Well, to be honest with you, my focus during that time, and I told Coach Johnson this, my focus was on LSU. There's only so many times in your life you get a chance to play for a national championship, even at LSU. And so my focus was on that. I was not at any point in time focused on anything other than that, and definitely wasn't focused on Duke. And it's a great place with a great program, and they'll have a ton of success. They made a hire, and he'll do a great job. But my focus was on LSU and has been on LSU. This is the best place in college baseball to coach, just like it's the best place in college baseball to play. And for me, in my career, this is exactly where I wanted to be, working for Coach Johnson. Have a passion for it, and I love working for him. He lets me work. He pushes me. He challenges me. I get to work with the best players in the country, in my opinion. Nothing better than that. And so this is where I want to be, and this is why I made the decision to really not even entertain that much.
Hopefully it doesn't affect our friendship here, but I went to Syracuse. Obviously, Syracuse and Duke.
Well, yeah, but they don't have baseball,
they
so
don't
worry
I was
about
going to say, yeah, so you probably don't care all that much.
Don't care all that much.
Do you think they should have baseball up there? Because the Yankees are there, the Mets are there.
Good question. Probably. I think it'd be tough, though. But
Well, Title IX, I think that's the issue.
That's the issue,
Is
yeah.
that if you add a baseball team, you got to add some other sports and things like that. But it is kind of strange, with those professional teams down the road a couple hours, not having a college team. I don't think the weather would
weather's
work
not
out.
conducive
No,
to
it's really
college
not.
baseball that much.
There's a softball team there, and they play the first half of their season on the road, basically, in Florida and at all these showcases and stuff. And it's our first home game. Here we go in mid-April.
In mid-April, exactly.
It
still might snow.
It's weird. Yeah, you touched on this a little bit. Just what's it like working for Coach Johnson?
It's unbelievable because he sets the pace. I like to go. I like to work. I don't feel like I'm working. When I wake up, to me, this is a passion. It's not a job. And he feels the same way. He goes, man. It's just he's always forward thinking. He's always, again, having an idea about how can we do this, how do we need to execute this, and he listens. As an assistant coach, you want your head coach to listen to you, and you feel like you're valued. No different than a player, and he does that for our players. I think our players understand that, hey, Coach Johnson's listening to me. He's going to have a response. May not even be something I like, but he's definitely going to listen to me. And I think as an assistant coach, that's first and foremost. And he does a great job of listening. He takes your ideas sometimes he doesn't, and that's okay. He has to make hard decisions. But when you know he has a passion and how hard he works, when you see that as an assistant coach, it motivates you. And that's the type of guy you want to be around. That's the type of person you want to surround yourself with in life. And so it's a lot of fun. And he does everything. To be honest with you, I joke all the time that he's probably our recruiting coordinator because he's always locked in on that, and he's locked in just like he's locked in on everything. And but understand something. I say this all the time. Recruiting coordinator is a title. Everybody at LSU is responsible for recruiting. That's Coach Johnson. That's the rest of our coaching staff. Myself, Coach Simpson, and Coach Wanaka, and Tutko, and Yeski. That's our fan base. That's our players. That's our facility and our facilities folks. Everything plays a role in recruiting, and no one has it better than LSU. Our challenge is to continue to up our game and to match our peers, and that's the challenge for 2026. And so we're all responsible for recruiting.
Yeah, I see Coach Simpson on the phone. He's talking to recruits all the time, so it's really shared responsibility.
It takes everybody. Yeah. It does. Not one person can do it. And that's the cool thing about our staff. Coach Johnson doesn't have an ego. He gets in and gets his hands dirty, and no one on our staff has an ego. It takes everybody. I can't recruit a pitcher as effectively as Coach Yeski can. Why? Because he calls pitches.
Right.
And he talks about the delivery. So I kind of joke and say maybe I'm traffic cop. I kind of help direct some things, but everybody, and again, including our fans, when our recruits see the passion our fans have for our players and for this program, that's really important, and it's easy to talk about, and that's what guys want to be part of. They want to be part of something that people have a passion for, and that in itself makes this a great place to play.
Seems like if you guys get recruits on campus, it's very difficult for them to leave without giving y'all a commitment. I mean, it seems like you talk to a lot of different guys. Anthony Ionson's a guy that sticks out. He came on his visit. His dad told me, Jeff, that he could see it in his eyes that he felt at home here. What do y'all do to kind of make this place feel like home for guys that are not anywhere from anywhere near here and maybe have never even stepped foot in the state?
Well, I think our visits are very detailed in terms of the process, so they get a chance to see everything that's important for them as a player. I think that's number one. They don't leave here with any questions about anything. We're very transparent in terms of how we go about our business, what they'll be part of, how they will develop, how they will grow. I think that's really important. And then ultimately, it's about a connection and making them feel at home here and making them feel like they're welcome and making them feel that they will thrive. As a parent, that's what you want. It's not a baseball player, it's a son. And so you want a parent to feel like my son's going to be in a good place and be around people that care about him. And I say this all the time, doesn't make professional baseball bad or anything like that, but college is the last place where anybody cares how you do, because once you move on, and that's for anyone, once you move on into the business world, once you move on to professional baseball, it's about the results and the results only. It's business at that point. And sometimes at this level, you get the opportunity, it's more personal. And we care a lot about how our players develop. We care a lot about how our players are doing.
Yeah, it's not all about money at this level. And y'all have done a great job. I mean, I got it written down here. Number 3 class in 23, according to some different publications. Number 2 in 24. Number 1 class right now for 2025. But the next few weeks will be interesting, right? Because that's the thing with baseball recruiting, is that these guys, unlike maybe football and basketball, can start their professional careers right away.
It's part of it. Every player we recruit should have a professional baseball opportunity. If that's not the realization, then we're recruiting the wrong guys. And so, we will sweat. We're having conversations every day. Had one earlier with guys that are in the 25 class, and so it's always just about trying to make sure we're prepared for the unexpected. And again, it's more art than science. And so there's 2 types of recruiting. There's proactive recruiting. We went out proactively and recruited a great class in 25. And then based on the Major League Draft, we may have to do some reactive recruiting. I mean, we may have to look other places just based on some of the names that might get called and may get opportunities they can't walk away from. And so we'll be prepared. And Coach Johnson and myself and Coach Simpson and Coach Yeski and the rest of the staff, we're in a great place to execute a plan should someone get their name called.
And you could probably use guys like Kaysen and Derek and Cade and William as examples of, hey, I mean, these guys are in the same position as you. And in some cases, the success or the payoff is still down the road. But with like Derek and Kaysen and Cade, I mean, you're already seeing early feedback on if you make this decision, it could bode well for you.
The best commercial for any program out there, and we have the best commercial at LSU, is the players. Our players are our best commercial for why LSU. When you're sitting at home and you're looking at the draft and you're contemplating whether or not you should sign and start your professional career, whether or not you should enroll at LSU, you should look and say, what type of year and what type of season did Derek Currell have? What type of year, what type of season did Kaysen Evans have? And you look at a guy like Maverick Rizzi. He gets lost in the shuffle, led our team in appearances. And so you look at a guy like Cooper Williams. Guy got a chance to high leverage situations as a freshman, and so forth and so on. Cater and Beatty. So, and again, if you're sitting at home thinking about that decision, like there's examples of why LSU. I think in the 25 national championship team, we had 5 guys that were in the everyday lineup that played a role as freshmen. You go back to 2023, we had 5 guys that played a role as freshmen and won a national championship. So there's a blueprint here for you as a freshman to have a pathway, an opportunity to get everything you want in terms of your development and also a national championship.
Now that I think about it, there was something that came out in the preseason that LSU had the #1 impact freshman class. Like not just, projecting what they could be down the road, but guys that could come in and impact the team right away. And that was dead on.
Yeah, that's what we want, and then we kind of continue that on Twitter. I talk about impact freshmen. It's one thing to go to a place and be a freshman. It's another thing to come to a place and be an impact freshman, and we have an opportunity to recruit impact freshmen at LSU. So if you've signed a letter of intent to come play at LSU, you're going to have an impact as a freshman in some capacity.
Some seen, some not seen, but definitely impact no matter what. Is it kind of hard right now to recruit with kind of the gray area that's going on with you don't know how many scholarships you're going to have still, I don't think. You don't know how big your roster is going to be. Like, everything's kind of in flux still.
It's never hard to recruit. I'm just going, you know, and I'll go until they tell me to adjust or to tell me to move this direction or that direction, to pivot, whatever it is. I'm going to pick up the phone. I'm going to call good players. I love doing that. I love talking with student athletes. I love learning their story. That's one of my most favorite things about recruiting is understanding the background and the story and the why maybe of a student athlete, and I have a passion for that. I like it, and so it's never hard. It's just how I do it, and I'm going to do it this way until they tell me to do it another way, and then we'll do it that way. So, but no, I enjoy it and have a passion for it, and we just go. That's all I know to do is go. I don't think of it any other way.
That's good. Well, I guess it's probably like difficult because you don't know how many roster spots you're going to have, so you're worried about over-signing maybe or something like that, you know?
Well,
have they told you anything new about that?
Well, we just, you know, it's changing every day.
Yeah.
It's changing every day, and so we look at it now, and we're going to be prepared. You know, we've got contingency plan upon contingency plan, and that's just how we try to go about our business and be detailed in the things we do, and you know, we'll see how it shakes out. We'll be ready for whatever comes our way. Just because I think no staff in the country spends more time thinking about their program, thinking about the future of their program than our staff, and it starts with Coach Johnson.
Yeah, it's got to just be a little frustrating, though. I mean, at least from an outside perspective of like, you know, I mean, what are the rules here? Like, what
frustrations. Well, I say this. Sometimes, you do. You start to maybe go that direction, and you step back and you say, you know what, frustration's a useless emotion. I get to. I don't have to, so I get to do this. So let's figure this thing out, and let's write it down and look at what may happen. And when you get great news like Omar Cerna coming to campus, that gives you a little boost, and you say, you know what, let's keep going, let's keep pushing. And you know, we'll get some more great news this week, I'm sure, and next week it will get more good news. I posted today. There's only good days and great days.
I saw that.
There are no bad days. This is LSU, man.
Yeah. Well, it's just like you guys shouldn't have to be worrying. I mean, you have enough on your plate already. You shouldn't have to be sitting there going like, all right, well, if this ends up being what it is, this will be our. It's just like whoever's making the rules needs to make the rules. You know what I mean? It might probably make it a little easier. But
have them.
I'm just frustrated for y'all. You know?
No.
Sure, y'all aren't. But along those lines, kind of with this freshman class, anybody that you expect to bring in that we should look out for that you're excited about?
There's a ton of
Omar
them. There's a ton of them. You just go down that list. There's a ton of impact freshmen. That's why they're the number one ranked recruiting class in the country. Really excited. You know, Briggs McKenzie. You know, he's an electric left-handed pitcher. Brady Ebel. You look at him, really, Jaden Faust. I mean, you go on and on. You look at those guys. Those are all guys you look and you say, okay, they step foot at LSU because of the way we're positioned next spring with the guys that are returning, with them coming in. You can look up and go, okay, this is the type of thing that you can go in and win multiple championships for years to come. That's the caliber of players that they are. And that's why they're also getting a Major League Baseball interest. And so that's why we'll sit around and see what kind of shakes out and pans out. And we have contingency plans, and we'll go from there. But love this group. It was fun putting it together, and excited to you know, the thing with the draft, I look up and I'm excited for our players, you know, because, you know, they get an opportunity too. And so that's how I look at it. And they gave so much to LSU. A guy like Cade Anderson, who we kind of didn't talk about, but Cade, I mean, he did everything for this program and the development. You look at where he has stepped and answered the call. I say a lot about that. Young man has you know, he's walked the talk a little bit. The talk of Cade Anderson coming out of high school, coming to LSU, being the guy and all those things, well, he lived up to that. And that tells me a lot about him and his preparedness for professional baseball. A lot of the reasons some of those guys in the 2025 class should come to LSU, it goes back to preparedness. I said all the time, the 24-year-old Josh Jordan would have taken the LSU recruiting coordinator job in a second, and I might have got fired in 8 months. This isn't a place, and just like professional baseball, it's not a place where you go for on-the-job training. Yeah. There's a sequence of events and development as a coach that has to happen in order for you to be prepared to be at LSU, just like it was for Coach Johnson and the rest of our staff. No different than a player. There's development that has to happen before you go on to be ready for professional baseball. And the numbers suggest it. They tell you that going to college is a better pathway to have a long-term big league career. That's just a fact. And so I think a lot of our guys need to look at the draft and go, what is the level of preparedness that I need in order to go out and have a successful long-term big league career?
It's a good segue because I wanted to get into eventually kind of your process of getting here, because you're a guy that kind of, I guess with a lot of people it's this way, you work your way up the ranks. You know, you start as a grad assistant, you put in your time, and eventually you get to where you want to go. So what's that all been like? I mean, you started your career where you played, right? How do you pronounce your school?
Catawba College.
Catawba,
Division
that's
II.
right.
Yeah,
in
Division
Georgia?
II. No, just north of
Carolina?
Charlotte. Yeah, in Salisbury, North Carolina.
Yeah.
I joke with, I would not be coaching if it was not for the guy I played for.
Yeah.
I had no intention actually to be a college baseball coach. That was not what was on my mind. And he kind of pushed me a little bit and kind of Jedi'd me a little bit into maybe doing it. And I volunteered there for 1 year. And
You didn't get paid?
No, I did not.
Wow.
And then from there, I went to Fort Hays State University.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of basically took that job and went from North Carolina, Salisbury, North Carolina, where I was living, and basically was within 72 hours in Hays, Kansas, and I had never been west of Mississippi. I literally just threw my stuff in my truck and went. And so I was a GA there for 1 year, then got elevated that next year when there was a coaching change, and so I was there. And then from there, I went to Young Harris Junior College, which is a junior college in northern Georgia. Now it's a Division II. And then from there, we went to Appalachian State University in Boone, North Carolina, back kind of closer to home where I grew up, which at that time, to be honest with you, it's I never had like a 5-year plan or anything like that. I was just going, kind of like what I talk about now, just get up and I go.
Yeah.
And but that was, to me, was like, wow, this is a dream job. Getting to coach at App State, it was a place I liked out of high school and maybe wanted to go play and wasn't quite good enough. And then from there, got the opportunity to follow the guy I worked for to Duke University. After 7 years at App, I went to Duke University and was there for 10 years with him. And then when Coach Johnson called, no question that this was something I had to do as a player, as a coach. And so for me, it's just, I've coached at every level. People ask, I don't have a lot of strengths per se. I don't think I'm not overly smart or gifted or anything like that. But I do like to go, and I've been blessed to coach at every level. So when I talk with a young man, as a player, I was a guy that was in and out of the lineup, so I can resonate and talk to him about that. Was a starter at times, wasn't. I've been a junior college coach, Division II coach, mid-major, ACC, now the pinnacle of college baseball. So I've coached at every level. What I know is they're great players at every level. At Young Harris Junior College, I coached Charlie Blackman. At App State, I coached big leaguers. Same thing at Duke, and then obviously now here at LSU. So they're great players at every level. It's more about what are you able to do as a coach, which I find really rewarding. What are you able to do to help get the best out of that player? Sometimes it's something off the field, on the field. It just depends on getting to that person, and part of coaching is making them do things or allowing them to do things that they didn't think were possible. Mm-hmm. And there has to be a directness in terms of how you go about that, and how you get really direct with that is how you know the student athlete. So building that relationship is really important.
Is App State's field in the same spot as when you coached there?
Great, yeah, great. Everybody sees that photo.
Isn't that awesome?
Neat. Yeah, it's actually 2007. That field opened. I was an assistant there, and in 2007 we played our first 38 games on the road. Literally, we got on a bus and drove somewhere to play our baseball games.
Because the stadium was still under
construction?
Because
the stadium was still under construction. And if I'm not mistaken, but I'm pretty sure this is accurate, it had been April 17th, 2007 was the first game at Jim and Betty Smith Stadium, the field that you see with the trees and whatnot.
Yeah.
It was a night game versus Gardner-Webb. I remember that. And so that was the first time. And now they show that picture. I remember that field being constructed. And And pretty cool setting, pretty cool environment. Yeah,
there's
really
no
cool.
Outfield seating, right? It's just all
There
trees.
isn't. Basically, if you go beyond center field, it's a drop off by about 400 feet.
Wow.
Like it just goes straight down, kind of literally on the edge.
No one's shagging balls out there.
No, you lose a lot of balls there. You know, we had some guys could hit some home runs, and so yeah, it's ironic. I knew. It's funny how life is funny, and the game itself puts you in positions like, wow, you never thought you'd be in. Like, you know, I remember coming here in 2012 as an assistant. We came here the second weekend of the year in 2012 and played Coach Maneri and Alex Boxdam. I remember standing in the dugout looking around and seeing the environment and the fans and the passion and looking at the players that were on the field and thinking as a coach then, like, wow, this would be a dream come true for me to get a chance to coach at a place like this. And it felt like the moon to me, and now I get a chance to do that. That's why I don't feel like there's a have to here. There's only a get to, because this was a dream. That's something I thought wasn't even possible even in 2012. So really excited that I get a chance to be a small part of this.
Super cool. You're always up early, huh? I mean, I always see you on game days. You're posting at like 6 a.m. You're probably there before the field.
Typically I'm up about 4 a.m. So it's just part of. I don't know. I have that kind of Derek Jeter thing a little bit, like where Derek Jeter said his biggest fear was not being prepared or ready. I have that same thing, and I feel like, I guess if I get up at 4 o'clock, I guess I'm more ready.
Yeah, there's something to that, I think. You got the whole day ahead of you.
We'll see.
You can't be behind, right?
Yeah, I'm ready to go. That's how I look at it.
I love it. One bad memory for me, I didn't even watch this game, but Michigan App State 200007, that would have been your first year. Did you watch that game?
I was there, watched the game.
Crazy, huh?
Crazy. It was funny just because that our coaches that summer, I was really close with a lot of the football coaches there, and was having dinner actually on July 4th with a lot of them. And
you celebrated that one.
Yeah, I celebrated that July 4th. I was actually having dinner with a lot. I remember this, having dinner with those guys, and a lot of them were talking about how they were going to spread Michigan out and run past them, because that App State team was really, really fast. Guys like Dexter Jackson, I think at that time was the fastest college football player in the country, and they had a really Armani Edwards was fast at quarterback position. And anyway, talked about spreading those guys out and running past them is kind of what they did, and then got some luck in terms of the block field goal by Corey Lynch. I remember that.
It's crazy. It's you've been North Carolina, Georgia, Boone's beautiful. Right?
It is. Beautiful part of the country.
Trees and stuff, the Appalachian Mountains, right? Yeah. What do you like about Baton Rouge? What do you like about living here?
Everything. Yeah. Because I like being part of something where, like, it's the main thing's the main thing, and I feel like here LSU is the main thing. And maybe that's because I'm just kind of a singular focused person, but I love the fact that our fan base loves LSU. They're passionate. And you do have to be ready for this. I love the edge that comes with this place, the people, and the hospitality, and I love the food, and it's just an unbelievable place to live, in my opinion. And comparison to Boone, you get 13, 14-inch snows at 3,000 feet in Boone, North Carolina, so it's definitely a lot warmer here in Baton Rouge than in Boone. And so, love this place, love being here. Again, a great place to call home.
Yeah. Couldn't agree more. 2 more for you. Thank you for your time, and Wade as well, who's working behind the scenes for us. Some of the guys that will be back on this team next year, and we know that. Who do you think could take a big jump that maybe we're not talking about?
Well, one close to me is Caden Beatty. Mm-hmm. I think he's a young man that's going to take. He's up in the Cape right now. He and I are literally communicating daily.
Which team's he playing for?
What's that? Oh, geez, I knew you were going to ask me.
There's a bunch. I'm actually headed there for family vacation later this week. That's why I asked.
He's in Chatham.
That's where I'm going.
Yeah, so
I'll have to say hi to him then.
So, but yeah, talk with him daily, he's going to use that as a way to prepare for next year. I think that's really important for him to go get some more at-bats and just get some more time behind the plate. I think he could make a big jump. I really do. Excited about what he brings to the table. I also think Derek Curiel has something he's going to be able to do in terms of step up in his game. I really believe that. Excited about that. John Pearson is another one. I'm really expecting John Pearson to grow and develop. He went to the Northwoods League to get some at-bats, and if you'd have seen him take batting practice in Omaha, wow, it was impressive. And I know you did. You were out there for BP. I mean, I was sitting there behind the cage with Coach Johnson, and we're both kind of looking at one another because, I mean, he's so ready. He goes out and gets these at-bats. I expect a big season out of him next year. And same thing on the mound. I fully expect Maverick Rizzi to have a big spring next year. Again, he's a guy that, in my opinion, you look up and he could be no different than Chase Shores this time next year if he does the things he's supposed to be to do and supposed to be doing, and I'm sure he will. Maverick's high character that way. Same William Schmidt. I think Schmitty's going to play a big part of it. I do. I know he's got some things he's going to build upon from this year and take that next step as a player and as a pitcher and on the mound, and he's going to be a big part of it too. And so I'm excited about what we have coming back. That's why we've been very kind of focused in what we bring in from the portal, just because we have such a strong nucleus. I think we're in a great position there. We want to bring in things that complement that nucleus and that bring something to the table. And I think we've done a good job to this point. And I think we've got a few more things that we want to add to it that will make 2026 really exciting.
Quick follow-up. You speak so highly of John Pearson. Just what do you think positionally his future is? Because I know y'all tried him at first a little bit, at third a little bit. Is it still something you'll have to kind of figure out? Obviously, you could DH.
Yeah, I think for John, for me, I think he's a guy can play third base. I do. I mean, I saw the job that Coach Johnson did with Tommy White in developing him as a third baseman. John could be no different. And that being said, I think John's a good enough. It goes back to kind of like Luis Hernandez. John Pearson's a baseball player. He comes from a baseball family. Like, you can ask that dude. I joke sometimes, like, we should just put you behind the plate. I feel like John can do anything on the baseball field just because he's a baseball player. It may not be pretty at times, but I think he can get it done. And so for me, John's a guy that can start. I think developing him at third base will be vital to his long-term career and future in professional baseball, which he will have. But depending on the team, what it looks like, may have to be versatile, move around to some other places. But that bat plays, man. That's a big bat and with a ton of power. And so I'm excited about that.
Going to be a guy that's hard to keep out of the lineup next year, the way y'all are talking about him, and based on what I've seen in a little bit too. I mean, he'd go up there and get some ABs late in games, and he would hit balls off the scoreboard.
Well, there's something to be said for presence. And when you see John Pearson walking, and I'm at third base, and so I get a good view of it. When you see that young man walking to the plate, he has a presence, and then you feel as that fan base is behind him, our fans are passionate. You look and go, man, this guy has some presence in the box, and there's something to be said for that.
Got to like his walk-up song, too.
Yeah.
It's a little bit of a throwback.
A little bit of a throwback.
Right? Yeah, it's a good one. A little bit of a different pace than some of the other ones, But and then just kind of with the calendar here the next couple weeks, I've talked to Coach Johnson a little bit, and it seems like the sentiment is there's a lot of guys that were on last year's team that have the opportunity to go pro, but are kind of gray area players. They could come back. They could go. So what does the next couple weeks look like for y'all in terms of doing exit meetings with them, continuing to talk to them, and then what happens with the draft? Because I'm sure you'd like to have a lot of those guys back.
Well, you're successful as an organization, whether it be a baseball team or any organization. Like, their communication has to be strong. So it's our job, whether they're back home, in person here in Baton Rouge, whatever, just making sure we're talking with them and making sure we have an understanding of where they're at and how they're feeling about it and helping them make a sound decision. That's the biggest thing, is being in their corner, which our staff does a great job of, in my opinion. Of our players understand that they can come to us, talk with us about things, and make sure they feel comfortable with it. So as guys start to navigate and think about professional baseball, okay, what are the pros and cons? They have to look at it individually, and we have to be there and be present for them as a coaching staff to make sure they make a sound decision based on the information that's given. And that's just our job. That's our obligation to them. We talk about recruiting them as high school players, coming in this program and developing them for professional baseball. That carries on and goes on into this upcoming weeks. That's part of the process. So we'll be present for our guys, talking with our guys, and talked to yesterday Chris Stanfield about that. He came by the office, talked with him, and then he stepped into Coach Johnson's office and talked about it. And so we'll be there for them. That's our obligation because, again, they've given so much to LSU. We owe them that. And if a guy wants to come back, we want him back.
Yeah, no doubt.
Because, again, they're champions, and those are hard to recruit, and they're winners. And so if we get a chance to get them back, we want them back.
Don't come around very often, but it seems like it does happen pretty often at LSU. I mean, 20 World Series trips in 40 years, 8 national championships. So you guys are clearly doing something right.
Yeah, it's the program.
Yeah.
It's the program, and something's woven into the fabric here. I talk to recruits about this all the time. Winning is woven into the fabric at LSU. Tell me another organization, professionally or collegiate, that over that time span has won 8 national championships with 3 different coaches, and 2 of those coaches having multiple. That's rare. That's rare. And again, I just don't think the success is unmatched in athletics in general. And so it's pretty special to be part of.
Yeah, it's baseball, it's gymnastics, it's women's basketball, it's football, it's every program here, it seems like. So we'll see if Brian Kelly and the football squad can follow up here in the next few months. But anything else I didn't ask you about you want to touch on?
No.
We talked a lot of stuff. There's a lot more I want to talk to you about.
No, I just appreciate your coverage and how you give our guys a platform. I appreciate you so much in terms of how you go about your business with our players and the coverage you give LSU baseball. You're an asset to us. I use a lot of your stuff, candidly, in some of your video footage for recruiting. Just make sure the guys we're recruiting see that, and I appreciate that a lot.
I'm happy to help, and it's a platform and a spotlight that y'all deserve, being the best brand in college baseball historically and currently. So it's a pleasure to be a part of. I really respect the way y'all work and put this thing together. I mean, constantly working and getting after it, and it makes you want to be a part of it. It makes you want to show up to the preseason stuff and the fall stuff, and obviously be there on the Tuesday against Southeastern just as much as the Friday against Tennessee.
100%.
So
100%. You've been to all of it, man. We appreciate your coverage.
Well, love being there. Fun to watch, especially this year. So thanks for your time. I'm sure you got a bunch of stuff to get to, phone calls, recruiting, and family stuff too. Hopefully you can enjoy the 4th a little bit.
A little bit, maybe.
Have a nice breakfast or something.
Something like that.
Get on the phone. But thanks a lot. Good luck with the next couple weeks, and I'm sure we'll see you again very soon here. New season basically has already started.
Thanks so much. Appreciate it.
Never stops. Thank you. Thank you all for watching. We'll catch you next time on Game Time with John Eads.